Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching. I am Ethan Frelly. I'm lead buyer's agent for Beltran Properties Group, and this is Think Positivity. Today, I have a special guest with me, a good friend of mine, Debi Mollahan. She's CEO from the Chamber of Commerce in Tigard, and then she's also a veteran. So thank you so much for that, by the way. I just want to say thank you and stop it right there because that's a big deal, being a veteran and coming to the private sector. So thank you, Debi, for being here.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here today.
Well, as you kind of know, we're here to talk about the importance of positivity in your life right now, especially during the COVID shelter-at-home order, and also just with business in general. I mean, you're the CEO of a chamber of commerce, so your main audience is business and business people. I'm sure you see kind of the whole spectrum of how people are handling this pandemic. So can you kind of lend me a little bit of what you're seeing, one, kind of on the spectrum, and then two, like how people are being successful in making it through and staying positive?
Sure. I think that like what I saw early on and what affected me early on, like probably mid-March, was this dawning realization that, oh wow, this looks kind of scary and kind of bad, and then we start seeing edicts being put out and how that's impacting business. And what I saw early on was, I think people just like kind of froze to a little degree, and there was this sense of disbelief, because I remember thinking to myself, I feel like I'm in one of those movies that I've watched before. I can't believe this is actually happening. I can't believe this is real. Oh my gosh. So I think for all of us, there was kind of that, like, can this really be happening? And then I think there was kind of that, I remember personally feeling a little bit like a form of grief. And I was thinking back on previous times in my life where I'd experienced a lot of grief. And in grief, a lot of times you zone out a little bit, you kind of go into automatic, you're kind of really focused on survival only, and somehow your body and your brain sort of takes over, but you're probably not your best self. And I remember kind of feeling that for probably a couple of 3 days. And then, I saw some people were just ready to give up immediately, I think, particularly when the governor's orders came out and shuttered some businesses or significantly restricted their services. And part of my advice to people at that point in time was like, you can't just freeze in place, right? It's a lot easier to change direction if you've made some decisions and you're moving, but don't make your decisions in a void, and don't make your decisions in a moment of panic. For help, surround yourself with other people. So then I saw people kind of after, I think, that initial like retraction and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening and the world's ending and things are just really, really bad, to like, okay, what can I do? How can I navigate my business through this? How can I navigate my family through this? How can I navigate my kids through this? Because I think the challenging thing about this whole situation is it doesn't just impact a business. You got kids at home, you have people working from home. So it's impacting personal relationships, it's impacting parent-child relationships. Yeah. So what I've seen now is people, after kind of that initial shock and awe, I've seen a lot of people kind of rise to the occasion, try to come together. They're offering to help each other. I see industry groups coming together and brainstorming with each other of like, how can we get through this? How can we collaborate? Who's got an idea about this? Who's got an idea about that? So now I see people, after getting over the shock, trying to figure out how to pivot their businesses, how to help each other and move forward in like a different way. So I think now there's probably still some people that are in the, I can't believe this is happening, and they haven't navigated their way through that, because we all deal with stress and bad things happening differently. And I relate it to grieving, because grieving has stages associated with it, and there's no set recipe for how long you're going to spend in each stage. And I think we also need to give each other a lot of grace in this time. Absolutely. And realize that, well, we may have navigated our way through it and we're kind of on the other side and we're in our new normal and we're kind of figuring out how to do business, and maybe my business is down, but I'm figuring that out and I'm managing it, or I'm figuring out what's going on with my family. There's people that could be behind us in terms of where they're at. They're still in that fear stage of, I can't believe this is happening. I don't want this to be happening, in that denial. And so I think we all need to recognize that we all are taking this journey together, but very separately in terms of how we are processing it, how we're dealing with it. So, you know, we're not our best selves when we're fearful, or we have a lot of anxiety, or we're in denial, or any of those things. So I think we need to give each other a lot of grace, forgiveness when somebody says something that you're like, whoa, I can't believe you just said that, or how did you exactly mean that? And I think we need to work a lot more on listening and empathizing. I think for me, one of the things I've found is sometimes the only thing I can say is, I understand, right? I can't explain, I can't, because sometimes you can try to offer solutions, but sometimes the best thing you can do is just shut up and listen, right? And then if somebody is open to like, oh, what about this idea, or what about that idea? But I just think that the people that I've found that seem to be doing better navigating their way through this have moved further through that process, I think. But we're all in different phases. And I think the thing that also makes it challenging is information keeps changing, right? There's a new order, or there's a new closure, or this might be happening, and so as you're trying to assimilate all this information, you're having a different response to this new data set, which can throw you backwards, right? You were doing pretty well, and then something happens, and you're like, like 2 days ago, we find out that the SBA funding for PPP and the EIDL is exhausted, and that's devastating news, right? So that can throw a lot of us backwards, being like, oh my gosh, now what do I do, right? And so you take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. So I think that we all need to recognize that we're all in this together. It's impacting people differently. Some of our businesses are actually doing pretty well because their services are in high demand, and we have other businesses that aren't because they're under an executive order to close or limited services. So I'm seeing business that's navigating well, just trying to be creative, coming together, not trying to be the Lone Ranger. I'm seeing a lot more authenticity, I think, and transparency from people saying, this is really where I'm at. This is what I'm dealing with. That's one of the reasons why we changed our pictures that we have in our e-newsletter to not be our great professional, headshots, and look at our home offices, and this is where we are, because this is how everybody's dealing with it. We're sharing pictures of our dogs or our pets laying at our feet, or kids are coming into shots and whatever, because that is actually our real life. Yeah. And I think a lot of times in our business, we go to work, we got that work persona that we project, and I'm professional and I have my act together, and I'm, providing all these solutions, and nobody really knows about that other part of our life. And that's very one-dimensional. Yeah. None of us are one dimension. So I hope one of the things maybe we all learn from this is that we're all very multidimensional, that we all need to bring those pieces of us to the table, because that affects how we make decisions and how we problem solve and all those kinds of things.
You brought up so many different topics. Oh my gosh. So you brought up like adaptation. I love, I've been talking to other people about how people are using this as going through this as a grieving process. 100% have talked to, we've talked to Megan earlier, Megan DeSalvo, and definitely we touched up on giving people grace. And, and not only the adaptation portion of it, but then also like dealing with just the change, just the constant change. Because information is not only changing day by day, but it's changing hour by hour sometimes. And you're hearing one thing you're reading one thing in the morning, and then you're hearing something on another from a press conference that just happens later that afternoon, and people are having to deal with that. So so many things that everyone is having to deal with, and then there's that everyone's having to deal with it. So at one point when I was dealing with it with this grieving process of I think I was just angry. It was like it did not help me at all to think that other people were dealing with it. In fact, it made me go further down the negative hole of like, well, nobody's not dealing with this right now. The silver lining that I was looking for was like, maybe someone's not dealing with this, and obviously I was looking for the wrong silver lining there, but um, working through the grieving, and 100% agree that like this was something that was definitely looked at as like as a loss of a family member of some sort, and it was difficult until that light was shed of like, okay, there is a process that's going through this. It's okay to feel these feelings, and it's okay to share them, because at the end, when you pick up the pieces at the end of this, you need to be the person that you want to be again, because you can't just falter.
Right.
So, what do you have any tips or advice or life hacks or anything right now that you found to be really really useful?
Well, I think for me, one of the things I did early on in my like little shock and awe, and oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening, and what does that mean? And because I think a lot of times maybe people don't think about the fact the chamber is a business, right? And so we need to make sure our business is viable too, so we can support all of our business members. And so part of my like thing was I reflected on, okay, I took this job over during the recession. I started this job in November of 2009. We were still kind of on our way down as a business community. And the chamber had, no cash reserves. And, it was there was me and a part of another person. And then by the time we navigated our way through that, it was down to like one full-time equivalent, basically, to work our way through that. And I thought, well, this isn't as bad as that, because there's 3 staff and we aren't, completely hand to mouth. It's not like we're sitting on, money, but, we're not having an immediate problem at this point in time. And so it gives us some time to make some decisions and navigate our way through that. And then I also, on a personal level, reflected on the fact that during that early 2009 timeframe, my husband and I both found ourselves unemployed with 2 mortgages. And yet, we're able to navigate our way through that and manage our way through that, thankfully. Both came back and got jobs. And then I was like, okay, well, it's not as bad as that. So I think for me, part of it was having perspective, I've gone through some previously challenging times that I could relate to and be like, okay, well, what did I do then? How did I navigate through that then? What can I pull from that? Yeah. And I think, one of the pieces of advice I was trying to give our businesses earlier on was to take the information that you have right now, even though it's constantly changing, and make some decisions based on that information that you think is the best thing for yourself personally, for your business, that type of thing. And then when you get a new set of data, then go back and evaluate, the decisions you made. Do those decisions still hold true? Or should I maybe make some sort of, maybe there's a minor shift or minor change that I need to make, and continue to adapt? Because law, I think it's a physics law. It's easier to change direction when you're moving than when you're standing still. So to just freeze in place, either personally or from a business perspective, for me, I found that to be helpful. I'm still working on trying to figure out my balance between, working at home and then, everything else is only 10 or 15 feet away. And how do I, in theory, I have more time because I'm not driving back and forth to work. So I should be able to be working out, but then, we get this constant barrage of things that feel urgent. So it's really easy to say, oh, I can't take that lunch break, or I can't go for that walk because I just got this piece of data and I need to turn it around. And everybody's struggling with that, I think, in their business. But that's, if we don't take care of us and find that healthy balance of mental health breaks and physical health breaks and relationship breaks, spending time with people we love, we're not going to have the capacity to do the work another day and to do it well. And I think what I'm finding is the intensity of what we have to process in terms of all of this information flowing at us and trying to make these decisions of, for us as a chamber, like, do we feel this is a valid source? How do we assimilate this information? How do we turn around and make it useful for our members? Because we're getting a lot of information, but we need to qualify it. And then what I've discovered is that, an 8 or 9 hour day can be super exhausting because you've been processing so much information and thinking. And what I'm finding is creative time is like, there is no time to like, because for me, creative time is when you don't have to be thinking and you can just kind of let your mind rest. And that's when you come up with great ideas. Great ideas that can help your business move forward, or great ideas that can help you on a personal level. And so I feel like that's one of the challenges right now for everyone, is finding that creative space which you need to navigate your way through this. So I'm still trying to work on a rhythm. I was walking my dog at least 2 or 3 times a week because he needs the exercise and I need the exercise, and it gets me outside and I get out in the sunshine, which is good for our moods and all that kind of stuff. And so that's been kind of one of my tips. And I'm also a spiritual person. I have a relationship with Christ, and I'm trying to start my day with some time in the Bible and prayer and kind of centering myself and getting more of a bigger picture perspective about what's really going on. Mm-hmm. One of my other things I'm trying to do is ask myself, what is it I'm supposed to be learning during this time? Are there things maybe that I've been prioritizing that really aren't as important that I need to let go of, both on maybe a personal level, or how we're managing the chamber and stuff like that. So I always think there's a learning opportunity in things. So I'm trying to find that silver lining in this of, what am I supposed to be learning from this? And what are the things I can take away that are positive from this? And to some degree, it's reaffirmed some of the things I've been focusing on previously. So that made me feel good. Like, oh, I'm focused on some of the right things, because I'm not all of a sudden having these epiphanies like, oh, wow, I shouldn't have been doing that kind of thing. And one of my silver linings was I taught my mom how to Zoom. And she's been Zooming with the whole family and with her sister who lives in Colorado, and my niece who lives in Colorado, and my brother and sister-in-law who are up in Seattle. And it's kind of opened up a whole new avenue for her. So I view that as like a major win out of all this.
Do you see that continuing then?
Yes.
With her?
Yes. Yeah, because that face-to-face interaction instead of just being on a phone, and it's very one-dimensional. So
yeah. So and that's the thing too. In my business, we're still seeing that people are still buying homes, and what that tells us is that people are adaptable. I mean, things happen. From what I saw, 25% of the homes that were sold in last week, I think there's a statistic that was out there that said 25% of the homes that were sold last week were sold without the buyer seeing it, like in person. So wow. I mean, people still need things. We're still going to adapt. We're going to change. We're going to accept it, and then we're going to assimilate it into our normal lives. And it takes a little bit of time to go through and start a new habit. But I think that's what people are going through right now. It's like an accordion. You got to stretch it, and then it goes back. It's normal, and we're going through that like weird, uncomfortable stretch right now. It doesn't feel good. But eventually we'll find comfort again in it, and that's awesome. That's awesome that people are. I love the silver lining of people finding new ways to use technology in their lives, and that just because one, it was done at a reaction, but now it's going to turn into something that it's going to connect people more. I heard on the radio a couple weeks ago that, and this was a couple weeks ago, that people thought that this was going to, only 17% of people thought that this was going to make people more connected. And I feel like that has definitely changed. I mean, I always know that there's the 80-20 rule, and that kind of falls within that 20% rule. I'm almost positive that has switched because of this, and because of programs like FaceTime or whatever it may be that people use. I like this, and I was definitely resilient to this at the very, very beginning. I used it with Nathan, with him being my coach. But I think that this is kind of cool. I think that people will find comfort in it, and also, like you were saying, when we pick up the pieces at the end of this, I think that employment is going to change definitely. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think I've seen that adaptation happening within the chamber, because we pivoted to a digital platform for our business building events, right? And the first one, I think we had 16 people online. And then the next week we had, I think, 25. And then the next week we got up to 50, and that's what we've been kind of running at. And so I think, people gotten more comfortable with the technology. I also know that members have reached out to other members that weren't as comfortable with technology and tried to help them get online and
Good.
navigate that and that kind of stuff. And so I think that, yeah, I know for us as a chamber, we're looking at like, well, this digital platform's working pretty well. So when we come out on the other end of this, how are we going to incorporate that? Because it's beneficial for some of our businesses that they don't have the time in their schedule to travel to a face-to-face networking, or, they're dropping their kids off at school and that kind of thing. And so, are we going to have some sort of mixed method where maybe we have some face-to-face and we have some digital business building events going forward forever? What does that look like?
Yeah. So one thing I forgot to talk about was I always start with which one?
It's the sunshine here.
I think that's a good. I like that. Actually, that's a very good light now. One thing that we start with in my team is what we're grateful for. So I meant to start the meeting with that, but we're going to end it with that. So what I'm grateful for is, one, you being here as my guest, and two, just the hard work that you've put in. One, as a veteran, I'm super grateful for that. I wasn't brave enough to take that oath, and I'm so grateful for the people that did that and that do that now. So thank you so much for that. So, what are you grateful for?
Well, I'm grateful for a lot of things. One of the things I'm really actually grateful for is the team that I have at the chamber that works with me, both Catherine and Jessica, and their ability to pivot with this pretty, like, it didn't kind of bat an eye when we transitioned to a digital platform and we need to work from home and that kind of thing. So their adaptability is really good. Their flexibility is really good. I appreciate the fact that they can be transparent with me and say, maybe I'm not having such a great time right now. We can have a conversation via Microsoft Teams about that. But they challenge me to think differently, because they're approaching things from a different perspective than I am, because they're a different generation. And so I really am grateful for that, because we can bring that whole mixture to bear in the business and we can lift each other up. They're doing a great job of connecting with members, making sure members are staying connected through now these digital mediums, checking in on members. I view them as kind of my listening posts within the membership, where I'm getting information back that I can then share with, our legislative reps and stuff like that. So I'm really thankful for the caliber of the team that I have, that, because of their skill sets and their personalities, that we're able to navigate this together as a team. And I would say it's strengthening us. So I'm very, very grateful that we have such a great team at the chamber, that I've got such great coworkers that work with me. And on a more personal level, I'm just really thankful for some really simple things, like the fact that I have a roof over my head, I got food on my table, I got heat, and I got light, because we have community members that don't have those things.
Yeah.
That I'm employed right now, that my husband's employed. So, just some of the real basics are the things that I'm really, really grateful.
And it's in times like this that those are just the very important things, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for being one of the positive people in my life, one of the realistic people in my life, and that helps tremendously. Can you share with people that are watching how they can get a hold of you if they're interested, if they're not a member of the Chamber of Commerce, if they want to see what that's all about? How do people find you?
Oh, well, they can find me by either calling 503-639-1683, which is my direct line at the chamber, and right now that is rolling to my phone here at my home office.
Great.
They can also email me at debi@tigardchamber.org. That's another way to get a hold of me directly. If you call our other line of the chamber, which is 503-639-1656, then one of the other team members will answer that, and they're perfectly capable of helping as well. That is the other thing I really appreciate about my team, is they have a really good broad understanding about the chamber. So we're not singular in terms of who can answer the question, and they're empowered to answer questions and help businesses and help members. And if you're a business out there and you've never really explored a chamber, I would encourage you to just hop on one of our Zoom business building events on Thursdays, and that information's on our calendar. You can click the link and you can come and connect with a whole bunch of businesses that are all working. Our tagline as a chamber is building business and growing together. And I would say we're really focusing on that together piece right now, of navigating this together and working on this together and being creative together and those types of things. So come join us and check it out.
Well, you definitely feel that at those meetings, and you'll find me there too. So thank you again, Debbie, from the Chamber of Commerce and Tigard. I am Ethan Frelly from Beltran Properties Group, and thank you everybody for watching. And remember, think positivity. Okay, bye.